Now, I spoke a few months ago at a fleet conference and there was a little bit of buzz then about a particular car, but it wasn't some standard run-of-the-mill fleet SUV or sedan or hatchback. It was weirdly this, the Ford Mustang Mach-e. So why were these fleet experts excited about a car that normally on the face of it is a high-end sports model? It's because, well, it is and it isn't. The Mustang Mach-e, of course, as we know, is all electric, but also it's kind of a mid-size SUV with sporting pretensions. And in the case of the entry-level model in New Zealand, it's actually at quite a competitive price for that mid-size SUV segment. This one here with a 75.7 kilowatt hour battery, weird number there, but about 70 kilowatts usable, is actually $79,990, getting it under the government's $80,000 rebate limit. That means that for around $73,000, you're driving out in a really spacious SUV with a decent range, and it looks really cool too. Now, the Mustang Mach-e, it does sort of look like a Mustang, but not really, and we'll have a bit of an argument later about whether it should be called a Mustang or not. One thing I have no argument about is that Ford has done a very good job, and something you will know in all my videos I go on about. This thing has a frunk, and it's a good size frunk as well. Why so many other car companies can't do that is absolutely beyond me. Now, around over here, we have the CCS Type 2 charger. Bit of an interesting position for it on this side of the car, but probably not so bad in New Zealand. It's not something we see there all the time. I did notice when I was charging that it feels a bit flimsy. Charging performance is reasonable. On the entry-level model, it's up to 150 kilowatt on a DC charger. On an AC, 11 kilowatts, which is, pretty darn good. Three-phase charging is very handy in public charging situations. If we go to the other side of the car, one of my only complaints, and it's something that could probably be easily fixed on the entry-level model, is these wheels. They look like they've been pretty much lifted off an Escape or something very normal, and the tires are just such comedically high profile, made worse by the patterns on the side of these Continental premium contact ones. But I'm hoping because of that, the car will actually ride really well. Another little interesting detail on the car is the door handles, in that, Tesla's gone and come up with their various pop-out door handles, and others have copied that or done their own thing. Ford's just gone in a complete different direction and taken them off completely. You've got these little stubby handles here, but you open the door by pushing a button. There is app control on this car, but you've also got this option to open the car with a PIN code there, something that Ford's done for a really long time. On the back, you open the door just by pushing the button. There's no handle at all. Not ideal, and you get, I guess, a bit of grubbiness around those door handles, but still, look, it's something interesting, and I'm sure it helps with the aero as well. Now, if we come around to the back, again, we've got no Ford badging on this car. We've got the Mustangs. They're really leaning into that Mustang name. And it looks quite small and tight back here, but if we push the button and open, it's actually a fairly reasonably sized boot. On the entry-level one, you don't get electrical lift adjustment. But you definitely get a few suitcases in here. And here's one of the more contentious issues around the Mustang Mach-e, something that doesn't worry me too much. Ford does not supply and will not sell you a single-phase plug-in home granny charger. They do, however, supply the car with a really nice quality Type 2 cable. Their argument is they can't actually get Ford globally to certify one for the New Zealand market. Look, to be honest, I got a granny cable with my electric vehicle, similar battery size. I've never used it. You're better off just getting a charger installed. You're going to have a way better time. Down under the floor here, a little more storage and a tyre refilling kit. Inside the Mustang Mach-e, now this car feels quite closed in and sporty, but it's actually probably more practical than it feels at initial jumping in. These front seats are big and they're pretty comfortable, if a bit firm. I'm impressed that we've got this faux leather in the entry-level model rather than fabric. They don't feel particularly special and sporty. They do kind of feel like they've come from the Escape, and I guess that's okay. I do know you get really impressive sport seats in the top spec GT model, but you're spending quite a bit more for that. The dashboard itself does hint at the kind of double bubble shape of normal Mustangs, but one thing you don't get in the normal Mustang is this big vertical screen here, which has Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, wireless of course, a big chunky volume knob here. You've got lots of controls in there, and you can see things like your trip efficiency and other important information that really does help when you're driving an electric vehicle. Down here you've got space for 2 phones, one of them with a wireless charger, which I found has actually worked really well. I find a lot of wireless chargers other than Tesla are a bit mixed. This one does work incredibly well. And you've got this really nice little small screen up here for the Mach-e's main driver information and things like your driver assistance. You know, there's got lane keep and adaptive cruise, all those things. All that information is going to be up there in that nice small screen. The back seat, it's reasonably roomy. It's got plenty of legroom and good for kind of 2 adults, but probably not a lot of room for the person in the middle. Overall, it's just a really good, functional, mid-size SUV, but with just a little bit of a sporty flair. Now, I'm not going to tell you how the Mustang Mach-e drives because we're actually going on a little bit of a road trip today. That's right, you know from my videos, I do love the run down to Wellington. So I'm going to do that. We're going to leave shortly, but I'm not going to do it alone. I've got a friend coming with me, and we'll summarize the car as we go down the country. Look, here he is now.
Calm down, calm down. It's a bit loud.
What's this blue interloper doing here?
This is a Mustang.
No, this is a Mustang.
No, this is a Mustang.
Oh, the Mach-e.
No, the Mustang Mach-e.
I've got a Mustang over here, but... well, it's got the same little logo I see.
Yeah, exactly. How much does yours cost to fill up?
We won't talk about that. How does yours sound on the motorway at 100 k's an hour when you put the foot down to pass something and you hear that glorious induction noise roaring under the bonnet?
So you get a little bit of a burble, It's digital, but a little bit of a burble.
Oh, it's not ridge-cord corded, is it?
Something along those lines. Right, now for those who've watched the videos before, you'll all know Graham. He's my V8 loving America-phile who I'm slowly converting to electric vehicles. If you haven't watched our Renault trip or our LDV Mifa trip, then I go back and look at those. But yeah, what do you think? First impressions, Mr. Mustang owner?
I like the colour.
I think it's Blueprint, or what used to be called Blueprint.
Yes, it is. It actually looks really good on Mustangs too.
Yeah. Yes. I'm sure it does.
It's actually, I've said this before, I think it's a really good looking wagon.
Right.
Really good looking, actually.
I like how you said wagon.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. It is a wagon.
Actually. Yes. Yeah.
Right. So we're heading to Wellington.
Yes.
We're going to take this one.
I might miss this.
That one we're going to leave behind.
Right.
So, yeah, we'll catch everyone as we go down the line. I think hopefully first stop is Taupo, where I've got a little bit of a clever plan for our charging session. We'll catch you then.
Right, so a bit of a mid-trip update for everyone. Now we have reached the wonderful city of Pataru. Is it a city? Town? Not sure. Now we are at 46% of battery left, 157 kilometers of range left, and that's keeping in mind that we spend a lot of time doing 110-ish on the Waikato Expressway. If I can get to the trip computer here, we are averaging 21 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, which, considering the size of the vehicle and the fact we were doing those speeds, is pretty good. I love how it breaks it down here. 3% climate use, 95% driving, 2% accessories, and 0% exterior temperature. So I'm guessing that means it's not heating the battery to cope with the cold, even though it's not exactly warm out there, 10 degrees. Apparently my driving is excellent, thanks for rating me. So yeah, look, I'm loving the screen. I love all these options, particularly that trip computer. The CarPlay stuff on here is excellent. Now we've got a couple of tricks that we have found, or I kind of knew about, we've been exploring on this. And one of them is the kind of driving settings of the car. Now, like so many other vehicles, the Mustang has drive modes you can use. So if we go here into the settings, you can go between whisper, active, and untamed. So basically you've got economy, normal, and sport there in normal language. And one of the things you can do, we've got one pedal drive on, so for those who like one pedal drive, that's there, is that you have the propulsion sound. And the propulsion sound, basically, if you have it switched on, gives a little bit of a V8 burble to the car. Now, Graham, I don't think you agree with me that it sounds good?
I thought it was a wheel bearing gone in the back for a second.
Yeah. So I'll give it a blip and see if you can hear it. I doubt you'll hear it on the oh no, I think put on untamed for that, so there you go. That's the sound.
That's a wheel bearing.
I like it. Graham doesn't. You don't have to have it turned on.
Well, it's very unique.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, that's that. Now the other thing I'd say is the driver assistance feature in the car works so well. This is one of the best lane keeping systems around, and one of the things I really like about it is that, well, a lot of cars, to have the car recognise you as having your hand on the steering wheel, you've got to kind of actively be putting torque into the steering wheel. This car, when you're just having your hand on the wheel, it recognises you. I'm not sure if it's using some kind of system that can tell your hand's there. I know it's got a driver watch system here, but it doesn't need you to put that effort into the steering wheel, which is just a bit annoying and unnecessary. So yeah, really good. Right, so what's the plan from here? Just another little bit of a short run to Wairaki, where we're going to take our first charge, and we'll talk to you there. Right, so we have made it to Wairaki, just outside Taupo. Now, normally on these trips I say, go and eat or something when you're charging, or have a sleep when you're charging, whatever. Just don't do nothing when you're charging. Nothing worse than sitting in a car doing nothing while you're charging. So what we're going to do here is we're going to plug the car in and run next door to the Wairaki Terraces and go for a swim. And I've kind of timed it out. I think we can get in about a 20-30 minute swim while we take this thing up to 90-100%, because from there we should be able to make it to Bulls and then a splash and dash on to Wellington. Now, I'm at a BP charger. I know I'm usually pretty loyal to ChargeNet, but this is what's here today. So of course the Mustang CCS2 on these new V-fills, quite beefy cable. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm still not sure about how flexible the charging port is on these things. So with the BP ones, you use the app. We've got the connector here. It's saying 75 on the app, but the charger says 69. Nice. And then we begin the charge. Now, of course, if someone else, I believe, plugs in on these, we get a reduction down to 50 kilowatt hours. That would almost might be nice. Now it gives us a bit more of a swim. I'm going to monitor this from the app, but we're going to jump, well, on foot and run next door and go for that swim. And yeah, we'll be back here soon for a trip on to further down to Wellington. Right, so we're ready to go. We have charged here for about 45 minutes, got a nice half-hour swim in, and yeah, we are sitting at about 93%. There's no really need to go any further. We're going to make it all the way to Bulls from here. Yeah, so let's get on the road and see how far we can get.
There's one little issue, Richard.
What's that?
What's for dinner?
Oh, I've got a plan for that. In alignment with the car, we're going to go for some fine American regional cuisine.
Five star? 5 star?
Some would say that. Some would say it's fit for kings. Right, let's go.
Sinking feeling.
The barbecue bacon double cheeseburger, large with Coke for the drink. And could we get 2 Hershey's pies, please?
Okay, drive on down.
Another sip rep. We are up the top of the desert road now. So we've climbed a fairly big elevation. It's literally all downhill from here. And we're using 26 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. Not unexpected, and actually pretty good considering the elevation change that we've been through. But there's some other interesting data we've picked up from the system as we've been going. Now, it has gotten cold up here. It's saying 1 degree now, but we saw as low as -3 exterior temperature on the car. And what we have seen pop up is that we're now using some power, or we've used some power, to maintain the exterior temperature. Now, I'm not sure if that's the heated windscreen or if that's some kind of battery warming to keep things on an even keel, but that's interesting nonetheless to see that doing that. I love screens where they give you a bit more data. Now, range-wise, we're showing 58% and 184 kilometers. Plenty to get where we need to go. We have less than 180 kilometers to go, but if we go over here, I'll tell you actually. But there we go, 129 kilometers to go. I think we're going to get a lot back from that descent down from the desert road. So yeah, we're next stop is still Bulls, where we'll do a bit of a top up because it's kind of the last hypercharger that's easy to access, and then we'll head on. We have made it to Bulls. Run through the numbers. We are averaging 18 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. We have about 150 kilometers to run into Wellington, 24% battery showing. It's saying about 68 kilometers range. I think that's massively understating what we've got. But to be safe, we're going to top up here. So of course we are at a 300 kilowatt hypercharger charge net here. We're going to go to about 60%, give ourselves a nice big buffer to get into Wellington. I actually have a charge net tag that came from CardSmart. We have our company fuel cards through them, and of course they now add charging to your account, so that's handy for all you fleet operators out there. So we are expecting a slightly better speed this time from the Mustang. Of course we saw the maximum 70 odd kilowatts at the BP charger. This time hopefully we'll see 150. So let's just watch the screen and see what happens as this thing fires up. There we go. 24, 31, 39, 46, 53, 60, 68. Oh, there you go, we've already surpassed the last stop. Come on Mustang, you can do it. Anything above 100, I always think we're winning. Still going. Still going. I think that might be where we're stopping for now. Still, maybe once it's warmed up we'll get a little bit faster. But yeah, so we're going to go and wander off. There's a wild bean simmer over there, find some coffee, and we will be back here really shortly and hopefully on our way to Wellington.
Right, so it's a little bit later. We did the road trip. We had to kind of split at the end because we were fairly busy and it was late and so on and so forth. But I was reasonably impressed in some ways with the Mustang Mach-e. Had a few little quibbles, but overall I was pretty happy. I mean, let's touch through what the basics of the trip go. It did the miles. It was definitely a solid 300 plus K car, potentially almost you'd say a 350 car, considering this was the short range, so not exactly the big battery. Definitely done over 300. Could easily do, I think, if you pushed it 350, which is surprising for quite a big car. I found it drove pretty well. I thought the driver assistance was pretty good, though Graham, I think you might have a conflicting view on that. And I guess my only quibble would be, or my main quibble would be, I didn't much like the seats. My posterior was damaged after that trip. Now I know it was a long trip, but I was in a wee bit of bottom pain for a wee bit of time. But I guess you'd sort of expect that. We did near on 1,400 kilometers, and we didn't stop a huge amount. You know, 2 top stops on the way down and a couple of stops on the way back as well. Graham, what was your take? You're yes or no on the Mach-e, or certainly in entry-level form?
I'm going to be middle ground on this one. And as you know from the story, I'm a Mustang owner myself. So I have a bit of a thing about the fact that it's called a Mustang. And that doesn't taint my thinking around the vehicle, but it certainly makes me look at things a little bit sideways at times. Look, I tell you what, as a big SUV, it works. There's lots of space. We couldn't argue about the range. Certainly did the job. As far as an EV concerned, perfect. About 3 or 2 days after that road trip, I've just headed down for an 1100k road trip in an old used car that I've got, and I've got to say, I was 5 times more comfortable in that than I was in the seats of the Mustang. You're right, the seats were not comfy, and I don't think it's because we did the distance. They may be set up for different driving, perhaps in America, or different types of people. I don't know, I'm not that well padded, but I did find them a bit uncomfortable. But the other aspects of it, but there's little niggles here and there, but no vehicle's perfect. And let's face it, for the price point this is, I think it delivers a lot of large EV SUV driving.
Now, I've got the GT coming up in a few weeks. Should we do something with that? I mean, it's a little more competitive to yours when it comes to power, and it's got different seats too.
Well, I think that'll be a really interesting comparison. And price-wise, if you take, for example, a brand new Mustang GT 5 litre, let's say that's the comparison, and a brand new Mustang EV GT, they're not that far away in pricing. Maybe what, $30,000 difference, $35,000 difference. They're certainly in the higher end of the bracket, but they're probably a fairer comparison between the two. And yeah, that could be interesting. But it's not about being an EV.
No. I still think it's a great car. Just a few little niggles that need to be sorted out. Seats, maybe a little bit of tuning for the driver assist, but otherwise not too bad. But excellent. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more from us, including maybe some stuff where we go and do some dumb stuff with the GT. We'll catch everyone later.